I'm down here to prove a point. This is under my desk. I'm under my desk. This is under my desk. And this is a little thing that I got from Kara's grandparents' house. It's like a little tool, like a little nuts and bolts organizer. Can't even see it because the lighting's so bad. It lives down here as overflow storage for knives that I don't have room for on my desk or anywhere else. And that's kind of the theme of this whole video. I am shooting this on a camera I just bought with a lens I just bought that's on a tripod I just bought. I have a dozen tripods. I have half a dozen cameras. I have 30 lenses, 40 lenses. Did I need this? No. Do I need 600 knives? No. And yet, I keep buying both. This is what I'm talking about. This whole thing back here is lenses. Vintage cameras, film, some used, some unused, none of it developed because ADHD, I guess. Over here, more lenses, more cameras, the microphone cameras. It's a problem. Collecting's always been a problem, and it's not going away anytime soon. I mean, you guys know about this already, but this is, do you know what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm putting down here? And I blame all of this on a little something called ADHD. So the way ADHD works is it affects kind of the reward center of your brain. The dopamine center of your brain, where all the happy stuff comes from, all the happy feelings, all the happy chemicals. In an ADHD brain, that's broken. And no matter what kind of medication you're on or how much of it you're taking, that party is always going to be a little different than everybody else's. So we as ADHD people, we seek more dopamine in more places, in weird places that most people don't have to, because they have a normal amount of this beautiful, happy chemical floating around in their body, in their brain. So for ADHD people, we tend to seek it out with addictions, just in general. And I'm speaking in a very general sense, but alcohol, drugs, anything that triggers a dopamine response. So alcohol's a big one, nicotine's a big one as well. But buying things is a big one. Retail therapy is a real thing because you get this dopamine rush every time you click buy, and then you get another one when that item arrives. So for me, it always made so much sense to me in my broken brain to just always be collecting something. It started very early on in my life. It was always collecting something. It was coins. It was rocks. When I was really little, it was fun rocks. I think everybody collects rocks when they're kids. But it was coins for a long time. I was a big coin collector, then it was pens in general, and then that kind of matured into fountain pens, watches. I've always collected watches. This is what I mean, fountain pen wise. These are just like the really fancy ones. Some of the really fancy ones that I have. I keep them in a cigar. I think my wife got this for me, but they're in a cigar box. Like that's $720 pen. You know what I mean? I mean, this is like 4,000. There's more down underneath it. It's like, a few $1,000s worth of pens. Don't worry, there's more pens up here. These are some watches, some watches in the watch box. Just a few on top. Obviously, some in there. Here's some watches. Some more down here. God, my office is a mess. Some, lots of watches. Lots of stuff. Some more Pokemon cards, some more watches. There we got some more. There's some knife stragglers over here too, but some more watches. I think there's more knives in here too. Yeah, of course there is. Why not? Why not? Coin collection lives in there. I've always been into cameras. Ever since I had a real job, I've been buying cameras every couple of years, lenses, cameras, accessories, you name it. Musical instruments is a big one too. Drums, pianos, guitars, recording equipment, you name it. I went down that rabbit hole. And what happens is eventually you run out of interest. You don't run out of interest, but the dopamine response stops being as strong as it used to be. So then you go, well, this was fun and all, but time for the next thing, right? Time for the next collection, so to speak. Time for the next hobby. But for me, the way it's worked is it's always been cyclical. I kind of always make my way back around to the old things. For example, last year I picked up Pokemon cards again. I haven't thought about Pokemon cards since I was 10 years old. And now, 20 years later, I'm like, Pokemon's kind of hot. So I spent tons of time and tons of money and researched everything and learned everything I could about you know, Pokemon cards, and now I have a massive collection. And then that ended, mainly because I got priced out of the market, but that's a conversation for another day. But that ended. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? Sealed boxes, some, you know, not sealed stuff, some stuff I've opened, more, just so many, it goes around, so many sealed boxes. By the way, all these binders are full, all those binders are full, boxes full, boxes full, boxes full. It's a good shot of the Legos, some of the Legos. Here, you wanna see an unfinished one? That one, it's unfinished. It's not finished, never finished it. I don't know why. Then, let's see, what's another good example? Watches, something I loved when I was a kid, and now as an adult, I still, every once in a while, I'm like, nice watch, I'm buying that. I have 30, 40 watches. I don't need them, but I keep buying them nonetheless. Pens have always been a constant. Clicky pins, ballpoint pins, rollerball pins, fountain pens especially. I've spent an insane amount of time and money. Before I got into pocket knives, my big thing was pens. And I still love my fountain pens, and I still, every once in a while, will dip back into that. Like every other year or so, I'll dip back into the fountain pen game. Because I can't help myself. I literally just bought these 3 pens in the past in the past month, 2 months maybe. I was doing a lot of journaling in my sobriety journey, and I was like, you know what, I've deserved a new pen. These are cheap, these are from Amazon, but yeah, I still buy pens. I can't help myself. Because the brain needs dopamine, and I am heavily or properly medicated. I think also, some other things that I got into in general. Colognes recently, colognes have been a big one. I don't know, I never was a big cologne guy. I had like 1 or 2 colognes that I would use forever, and that was it. But recently, just the past couple of years, colognes, because they smelled nice and they tickled the dopamine centers in my brain. Flashlights. I don't leave the house. I don't need 200 flashlights. Do I have 200 flashlights? No. Do I have 20, 30 flashlights that I don't need yet? I do. Will I keep getting flashlights? Probably. Probably will. The point is, collecting with ADHD can be very dangerous. Collecting in general can be very dangerous. We talk about the rabbit hole. We talk about the slippery slope, so to speak. It's real, especially if you have a broken dopamine receptors in your brain, or your brain's not producing enough dopamine. You're going to seek it out. And the moment you get a hit on something, a new knife, a new pen, a new camera, you're gonna seek that out more and more and more and more and more, and you're gonna spend more and more time and more money on this thing until it basically takes over your life, and then you will reach a point where you get bored of it and you move on to the next thing, and you repeat that process. So being careful, treading carefully, is super important when it comes to collecting anything. Because once you start, people like me, with the way my brain works, you cannot stop. Just looking around my office, Legos. Legos was always a big problem for me too. Legos and models. I think it was because it was a triple dopamine hit when you bought it, when you got it, and then when you finished it, when you finished putting it together. So Legos, which these days is insane, so expensive. Also, lighting equipment. I could start a Hollywood studio with all this crap. I guess all that I'm trying to say is the older I get, the more I realize these patterns, these problems I've had my whole life. I'm lucky enough that I've turned one of these problems into a pseudo career, I guess. And, the older I get, and the more I realize these things about myself, the more I've come to the realization that unless it's serving me a purpose, I'm just not gonna buy it. I tell myself that. Am I gonna follow through on that? I don't know. I don't know. I think that's how I justify all the camera equipment, the recording equipment. the lighting, all that good stuff. I got really big into collecting automotive detailing supplies because when I bought my new car, I went down the rabbit hole of automotive detailing. I got really good at it to the point where I had a whole business running. But it was too much on top of working full time, and I wasn't able to keep it up. So now I just have a storage room in the basement that's half full of just towels and polishing equipment and chemicals and hundreds of gallons of automotive detailing supplies. It's absurd. It's absurd. By the way, down here, when I got really into collecting fountain pens, I also got really obsessed with finding the perfect notepad, the perfect kind of paper for different pens and different inks. By the way, I have a huge collection of fountain pen inks. So these are all just crazy notepads from all over the world. Whoops. Here. And this is maybe half of them. I have a box somewhere full of more. Hundreds of notepads. These drawers right here, these drawers are just full of fountain pen inks. And that's not all of them, because there's more in this box. This is just full of fountain pen inks. Oh God. The point is, rabbit holes are dangerous. Once you fall in, you get addicted to the feeling. Musical instruments was a big one. Musical instruments. Roland, Juno D. Juno D. You know, obviously the drum set, good lord. Let's crank that down. But the kit. You guys know the kit. Musical instruments, guitars, we already talked about that, but all the things that go along with it too, the recording studio stuff, microphones, cables, audio interfaces, microphone stands. I'm only 33 years old, but I have collected 70 years worth of shit. And I'm coming to the realization that I'm running out of room. This is where old hobbies go to die. All of them. It's nice to have all the cool toys. It's nice, it's fun to have the things that make you happy. I guess it only really becomes a problem when it becomes a problem. If I had to change anything, would I? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I probably would have spent less money on trinkets and more money on, like, big items. Big things that actually served me, as opposed to things that really didn't serve much of a purpose other than giving me happy chemicals in my brain. Yeah, I think that's it. So what's the lesson in all this? Is there a lesson? Does there have to be? Or is it just a guy on the internet with too much stuff, too many different hobbies, and a lack of chemicals in his brain? Are we all just some guy with too many hobbies and too much stuff? I think that's the real question here. I think this isn't about lessons, it's about asking the right questions. Like, what's the next knife you're gonna buy?